The chill of December sweeps through the state apartments with a stealth that even palace heaters can't fully banish, pooling in the corners where ancestral portraits hang. The draft seems to breathe, carrying the weight of centuries. Henry VIII's brooding gaze, Victoria's austere poise, Elizabeth II's measured serenity, all silently judging the living heirs who tread the same parquet floors. Yet even these silent watchers cannot foretell what the next 6 months might bring, for the monarchy stands at the most precarious crossroads since the abdication crisis. 1. The whispers before Christmas. Weeks before the royal family's traditional trek to Sandringham, the corridors of Buckingham Palace thrum with barely veiled speculation. Senior courtiers trail after Charles with briefing folders clutched tight to their chests, eyes flicking toward locked doors where urgent discussions take place. Charles, newly invigorated by a modest but encouraging medical report, has quietly summoned constitutional advisers. The agenda never appears on the official court circular, but staff nickname the gatherings the mirror meetings, because each confronts the king with a stark reflection: the crown he inherited may not look the same once he passes it on. At Windsor, Catherine reviews drafts of a proposed early childhood charter destined for the UN's Sustainable Development Summit, her most ambitious global project to date. William edges into the study between back-to-back briefings with environment ministers, placing a thermos of ginger tea beside her laptop. They exchange a glance, shared fatigue, shared purpose. No words are necessary. The silence says, soon. Camilla, meanwhile, holds her own war councils at Clarence House. Long loyal advisers argue that her decades of rehabilitation must not be sacrificed to the social media age's hunger for novelty. They urge a defensive strategy, keep public focus on her literacy charities and domestic abuse advocacy, causes she's nurtured long before social algorithms judged relevance. She nods, but the set of her mouth betrays the truth. She knows winds of change can uproot the sturdiest oak. 2. A briefing that shook the Maple Room. Late on a blustery Thursday, a confidential memo lands on Charles's desk in the Maple Room, a stately chamber so private that even footmen joke it exists, between 2 ticks of the clock. Drafted by a coalition of constitutional scholars, it explores, purely hypothetically, they insist, the precedent for naming a joint sovereign pair, should circumstances call for radical modernization. The phrase sends shivers through tradition. Joint sovereignty. In Britain. The last time such language was whispered, William and Mary were being invited to depose James II. Charles reads the document twice, underlining sections. The monarchy, it argues, may need a symbol of dual strength, a king and queen who rule as co-equals, a visible parity that mirrors contemporary expectations of partnership. The proposal is breathtakingly bold: elevate William and Catherine together, not in 20 years, but within the next decade, positioning them as Britain's stabilizing twin pillars long before public patience phrase. He closes the portfolio and gazes out at the floodlit Victoria Memorial. Somewhere in the city below, taxis honk and pubs pour last orders. Are those voices ready for such upheaval? Is he? 3. The Sandringham Summit. Christmas at Sandringham is all carols and candleglow on the surface, but behind the warm haze of figgy pudding lies the monarchy's annual strategy huddle. Over 3 days, the family gather in small, shifting constellations: morning shoot on the estate, afternoon tea in the saloon, late-night brandy in the library, each session covering another slice of the future. Camilla stakes her ground early. Over spiced mulled wine, she reminds Charles of the Queen Mother's maxim, never let daylight in upon magic. The institution's mystique rests in continuity, not reinvention. But Catherine, seated across a silver coffee service, counters gently, isn't daylight what Britain needs right now? Transparency builds trust. William squeezes her hand beneath the table. By the third evening, the cumulative tension is so thick that even the corgis refuse to settle by the hearth, sensing storm fronts in the human air. Charles invites only 3 people to the library: William, Catherine, and Camilla. No private secretaries, no note-takers. The doors close. What transpires inside remains locked inside oak panels, but no one emerges for nearly 2 hours. Observers later note that William's cheeks are flushed, Catherine's eyes glisten with unshed tears, and Camilla's courteous goodbye to staff carries an unaccustomed tightness. 4. An unexpected announcement. January opens with an icy rain that pelts London's palace roofs like impatient knuckles. Reporters assume parliamentary recess will slow royal news, but on the 12th, the court circular breaks pattern. An audience was held this afternoon at Buckingham Palace, at which the King consulted with the Prime Minister and the Cabinet Secretary. No agenda is given. 48 hours later, a carefully worded press release follows. His Majesty the King, mindful of the decades of service ahead and the global challenges facing the realm, is establishing a commission of royal transition. Chaired jointly by the Prince and Princess of Wales, the commission will consult widely on modernization and succession planning for the crown in the 21st century. The phrase joint chair electrifies pundits. Catherine, still formerly a princess, now co-chairs a body explicitly tied to succession. Tabloids erupt, regent in training. Skip straight to William. Broadsheets analyze constitutional angles, quoting historians on shared monarchy models from continental Europe. Social media tail whips with theories, some breathlessly optimistic, others dark with conspiratorial undertones. 5. Camilla's countermove. Within days, Camilla schedules an unprecedented televised interview, her first long-form sit-down since marrying Charles. She chooses the BBC's flagship current affairs programme, ensuring a primetime audience and serious tone. Dressed in a muted teal suit, she speaks candidly about her literacy charity's new international expansion, but interviews inevitably pivot. Your Majesty, how do you feel about the new commission? Her response: poised, measured, lethal in its calm. One never forgets the honor and duty of supporting the sovereign, she says. Change is natural. But stability is precious. My role is to safeguard both. Viewers parse every syllable. Supporters hail her dignified steadiness. Critics call it a veiled shot across Catherine's bow. 6. Catherine's quiet masterstroke. Catherine does not reply in words. 10 days later, she appears at Manchester Children's Hospital to unveil a groundbreaking program linking early childhood trauma treatment with cutting-edge neuroscience, an initiative 5 years in the making. She arrives without William, commanding the spotlight solo for nearly 3 hours. Social feeds explode with clips of her kneeling beside a 6-year-old burn victim, recounting her own scar from childhood surgery, turning vulnerability into connection. Headlines the next morning: Queen of Hearts 2.0. But it's a subtler moment that sets palace tongues wagging. At the podium, the hospital chair introduces her as Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales, our champion, our leader, and a queen in all but name. The phrase draws a ripple of applause. Catherine simply smiles, but that smile is worth a chapter in a modern Machiavelli. It accepts the compliment without courting censure, regal, yet deferential. 7. A leak, or a gambit. February's parliamentary reception for Commonwealth High Commissioners ends with a surprising leak. A draft amendment to the 2013 Succession to the Crown Act circulating among senior civil servants. The amendment would clarify the status of a reigning monarch's spouse in circumstances of joint regency. The document isn't signed, but watermark traces suggest origin within the Cabinet Office. Journalists can't confirm, ministers dodge questions, and palace spokespeople decline comment, fuel for speculation that someone at the top is testing public reaction. Petitions sprout overnight. Crown Catherine gathers 600,000 signatures. Hold the line for Camilla nets half that but boasts more older voters. Radio call-ins crackle with generational divide. Boomers caution stability, Gen Z champions transparency, millennials ask why any of it matters amid cost of living crises. Yet ratings soar, monarchy matters, still. 8. The turning point engagement. March brings the diplomatic Super Bowl, a state visit by the President of Kenya, timed to mark 65 years of independence, and to unveil joint environmental pledges. The banquet in Buckingham Palace's sparkling ballroom becomes the first public test of the new dynamic since rumors ignited. Seating plans are poured over like runes. At previous state dinners, Camilla sat to the king's right, William to his left, with Catherine one seat down. This time, observers gasp. Catherine is placed directly opposite Charles, prime visual axis along the long table. Camilla, 2 seats farther down on the right. Traditionalists tut, constitutional blogger scribble seminal. The king, raising a toast to cooperation across generations, lets his eyes linger on Catherine half a beat longer than protocol dictates. Cameras catch it. The image hits front pages by dawn. 9. Camilla's private decision. Easter approaches, and so does the family pilgrimage to St. George's Chapel. Camilla, nursing the bruises of public recalibration, spends a long dusk in conversation with an unlikely confidant, Princess Anne. The Princess Royal, famously allergic to gossip, respects Camilla's work ethic and blunt honesty. Over stiff gin and tonics in Clarence House's garden pavilion, Camilla confides fears not of losing status, but of becoming an obstacle to inevitable evolution. Anne's response: the institution is bigger than any of us. If we do our jobs right, we leave it stronger, not stalled. According to later whispers, Camilla retires that evening resolved. 10. A palace statement for the ages. April 15, 9 a.m., the world wakes to a sealed gold envelope posted on royal channels. Her Majesty Queen Camilla has, with the full support of His Majesty the King, expressed her wish to adopt the style of Queen Dowager upon the eventual accession of the next sovereign. In partnership with Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales, she will oversee a transition of patronages, ensuring continuity of service to cherished causes. His Majesty has today issued letters patent establishing provisions for a future reign shared in equal dignity by their Royal Highnesses the Prince and Princess of Wales. The phrase, equal dignity, detonates like fireworks over a frost-rimmed dawn. Analysts scramble. Queen Dowager. That title hasn't been used since the early 1900s. It signals Camilla's intent to step gracefully aside when William takes the throne, freeing Catherine to ascend without consort qualifiers. Social channels melt. Some celebrate a magnanimous coda to Camilla's long journey, others protest a breakneck shake-up. But the constitutional path is clear, codified by letters patent that lawyers confirm are ironclad. 11. Aftershocks, and a new morning. A week later, Catherine visits Camilla at Clarence House for a private lunch. No aides, no photographers. The Dowager-in-Waiting greets her with a wry smile and 2 flutes of Paul Roger, softened by Camilla's favorite elderflower cordial for Catherine. They talk for 2 hours. No transcripts leak, but staff report laughter echoing down the corridor, rare, genuine. By summer solstice, the first joint portrait of William and Catherine as in-waiting co-monarchs hangs in the palace portrait gallery. Painted over months in secrecy, it depicts the couple standing under an oak at Balmoral, William in morning dress, Catherine in a soft blue gown, their hands clasped, but not overlapped. Equal grip. Equal gaze. The motto on the plaque below reads, "Stability through renewal." Critics note echoes of Philip and Elizabeth's early photographs, others praise its modern understatement. Whatever the verdict, one truth is plain, the monarchy has already pivoted. Camilla's legacy becomes that of the bridge, controversial beginnings, but final act of quiet statesmanship. Charles, vindicated by his gamble, retires to Sandringham for a weekend of satisfied garden digging, confessing to aides that he has done right by both my girls. And Catherine. She walks through the galleries one dawn, alone, pausing before the new portrait. In the hush, only the ticking of a Regency clock answers her thoughts. She touches the frame lightly and whispers, so softly the CCTV mic strains to capture it, not queen yet, but ready. Outside, tourists queue for the changing of the guard. They chatter about crowns, puppies, and whether Charles will speak Welsh in his Christmas broadcast. They may not grasp the full magnitude of what just happened behind the red brick walls. But history will record that the winter of tension gave way to a spring of decisive evolution, one that acknowledged legacy, yet opened doors wide for the future. A future where Catherine stands not merely as consort or ornament, but as an architect, one half of a sovereign partnership, chosen by fate, forged by adversity, and ushered in by a rival-turned-ally who understood, at last, that the crown's true weight is measured not in precedence, but in the courage to pass it forward.